one of the what's really big in the industry right now is also doing a lot of the fiber build outs for the rural broadband, and that involves the communication worker safety zone. And could you just kind of outline or cover the rules in the NESC that about streetlights in that communication worker safety zone?
Sure. So the NESC, if you've been to any of our free webinars before or any of our full day classes, you've heard us talk about the communication worker safety zone. So that's kind of where we start with this. It's the space on the pole where nothing is allowed, with some exceptions. There's 3 exceptions there, but that gives that communication worker space to get up on the pole, work on their cables, maybe at chest level, keep their head out of the power, the energized conductors up above, keep them safe on the pole. But there are 3 exceptions for things that can be in there. One of those is span wires or brackets for luminaires or traffic lights. So that's our street lights. If you got a street light in there, you got to serve it power. So we've got an exception for drip loops to get power up to the street lights. And then we've got vertical risers. If we've got an overhead line like we have in this photo, it's going underground. It's got to go through that communication zone as well. So talk quick about just some of those street light rules when they're allowed in the safety zone. All these rules, if you're looking in your code, are in Rule 238. Not very much space is taken up by these rules. We've got a lot of different slides here, and we go into more detail in our full classes, but 2 small paragraphs down there at the bottom of the page, 238C and D, that talk about streetlight clearances. They do reference a table that takes up part of another page. If we look at those rules, 238C tells us that streetlights can be in that communication worker safety zone, and we have to follow the clearances that are over in the table 238.1. One thing to kind of see as a reminder here, in 2017, there was a change to ungrounded streetlights. So prior to 2017, they could be in the communication worker safety zone. In 2017, they changed the value in that table from 20 inches to 40 inches. So you can no longer have ungrounded streetlights in the communication worker safety zone. So that's the first part of the answer to the question there. Ungrounded lights can't be in the communication worker safety zone. Talks about the drip loop in Rule 238D. It does allow down to 12 inches, and you can see in the drawing there, 12 inches to the drip loop. And there's an exception to that. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. We still have to have 40 inches to any secondary, 120 volt, 120, 240 volt power. If that's coming from another pole, you see that in the drawing there as well. It's 40 inches to that wire when it's coming from the pole. It's just 12 inches that we can go down to the drip loop as it goes down to the street light. So let's take a quick look at a street light that is grounded. So if we turn to table 238.1, and that's one more page on from that, and that's not a very big table either. If we I look at that table in the code book, it's got 3 lines, less than half a page with all the footnotes and titles and everything there. But it does give us in that table 4 inches to the grounded streetlight. So we can have that down in the communication worker safety zone. You can see there's a bond from the pole ground over to the streetlight there. It's a grounded light, nice visible ground. We can go down to 4 inches on that grounded light. So you might look at that 12-inch drip loop. We'll talk about that in a second. There is an exception if we're down below 12 inches with the street light itself. So here's a photo, comes right out of the McGraw-Hill National Electrical Safety Code handbook, which is a great resource. That was on that first slide there. Drip loop, 12 inches. It's kind of a messy one there. Wires going everywhere. So we can have 4 inches to the light or 12 inches to that drip loop. But if we do get down below 12 inches with the light, down to that 4-inch limit there is an exception for the drip loop. It says that if the drip loop is covered by a suitable non-metallic covering, we can go down to 3 inches. Not a lot of guidance there. Kind of mushy wording. Talk about mushy wording a lot when they use words like that. Had someone ask me if electrical tape would be a suitable non-metallic covering. No, I don't think so. That's going to weather. That's going to come off pretty quick. we need a covering on that is maybe protecting it from the weather, but mostly it's protecting the communication workers that are up near that. We've probably all seen old service wires. The insulation is peeling off or cracking and crumbling off. So, we want to make sure if there's any exposed wiring there, communication workers are protected from it. So it does give us down to 3 inches with suitable non-metallic covering. And if we go to the next slide here, we have a photo of that. This is a photo I took near me in Walla Walla, the local IOU here. They've got that nice plastic kind of gray rubber covering that they're using. Sometimes you see black ones, but it does have to have a suitable non-metallic covering over it.